She kicked me out the day after my son's funeral, claiming everything was hers now. At the will reading, she smirked and whispered, "Enjoy your new homeless life, Margaret." Then the lawyer opened the sealed envelope. It started with a phone call at 2:47 a.m. on a Wednesday in late autumn. My son Nathan's voice crackled through the line, desperate and strained. "Mom, something's wrong. My chest. I can't breathe." Then silence. Dead silence. By the time I reached Seattle Memorial Hospital, my 43-year-old son was gone. Massive cardiac arrest, the doctor explained with cold professionalism. There was nothing anyone could do. Victoria stood beside me in that sterile waiting room, her face a perfect mask of shock. But I saw something else flicker in her green eyes. Was it relief? No, surely grief was playing tricks on my mind. "What happens now?" I whispered, still unable to process that Nathan, my brilliant, healthy son, had simply vanished from this world. Victoria straightened her designer coat, and for a brief moment, her carefully crafted composure cracked. "Now we deal with reality, Margaret. Nathan's gone, and I have important decisions to make." The ice in her voice sent chills down my spine. We had never been close, Victoria and I. But Nathan had always been the bridge between us, warm, diplomatic, always smoothing over the tension. Now that bridge had collapsed, and I was beginning to see just how deep the canyon between us truly was. "Of course, dear. We'll get through this together," I said, reaching for her hand. She jerked it away. "We'll see about that." I should have recognized the warning. Instead, I blamed shock. "People grieve differently," I told myself. "She's just overwhelmed." I had no idea what was coming. The funeral arrangements consumed the next 4 days. I offered to help pay for everything. Nathan had been my only child, after all. But Victoria insisted on handling every detail herself. "I'm his wife," she kept repeating, her voice sharp. "I know what he would have wanted." Fair enough. I focused on writing his eulogy, calling relatives scattered across the country and trying to hold myself together. At 69 years old, I'd buried my parents and my husband Richard, but losing a child felt like a unique kind of hell, a pain that had no name. The night before the funeral, I sat in what had been Nathan's childhood bedroom in the modern townhouse he'd shared with Victoria in the Capitol Hill neighborhood. I found myself staring at the framed photos on the dresser. Nathan, graduating from University of Washington. Nathan and Victoria's wedding at that expensive vineyard in Napa Valley. Nathan holding his nephew at Christmas 2 years ago. What I didn't see were any recent photos of Nathan and me. Victoria had systematically removed them, I realized with a jolt. When had that happened? How had I not noticed? A sharp knock interrupted my thoughts. Victoria stood in the doorway, no longer bothering to hide the calculating look in her emerald eyes. "We need to talk, Margaret, now." The funeral was elegant, I'll admit. The flower arrangements were stunning, white lilies and orchids everywhere. The music was Nathan's favorite classical pieces, and the reception afterward at the Seattle Yacht Club was impeccably orchestrated. What wasn't beautiful was watching my daughter-in-law perform the role of grieving widow while making pointed comments about moving forward and new beginnings. I stood in the receiving line, accepting condolences from colleagues, friends, and family, when I overheard Victoria talking to her younger sister, Celeste, behind a massive floral display. "The life insurance alone will cover the mortgage for 3 years," she was saying in a hushed but eager tone. "And without the extra expenses draining our accounts every month." Extra expenses? What extra expenses? "What about Margaret?" Celeste asked nervously. "Where will she go?" Victoria's laugh was cold and brittle, like ice cracking. "That's not my problem anymore, Celeste. She can figure it out like every other adult. I've played nice long enough." My blood turned to ice. "Margaret!" Victoria appeared at my elbow, her public face firmly in place. "Could you help me in the kitchen? We need to discuss something." I followed her through the crowd of mourners. nodding at neighbors and accepting final hugs from my sister, who was flying back to Phoenix the next morning. In the kitchen, Victoria closed the door and turned to face me, her composure chillingly businesslike. "I'm going to be direct," she said. "This house is in Nathan's name, which means it's mine now. I need time and space to grieve without complications." "Complications?" I kept my voice steady despite my racing heart. "You living here? It's not working anymore, Margaret. I need my privacy." The words hit like a slap. "Victoria, I understand you're grieving, but surely we can—" "No." She held up a hand. "I've made my decision. You have until tomorrow evening to pack. That should be plenty of time." I stared at her, searching for any trace of the woman who'd once called me Mom, who'd cried at their wedding. She was gone. "Where exactly do you expect me to go?" Victoria shrugged coldly. "You're a grown woman, Margaret. You'll figure something out. Nathan would be horrified." "Nathan's dead." The words came out flat, final. "And the sooner you accept that, the better off we'll both be." I packed my entire life into 4 suitcases and 3 boxes, 69 years reduced to what would fit in my car trunk. As I folded clothes and wrapped photographs, I kept waiting for Victoria to apologize, to say I could stay until I found somewhere else. She never came. Instead, at exactly 6:01 p.m. the next day, she appeared in my doorway, arms crossed. "Time's up, Margaret." We made 3 silent trips to my car. As I loaded the last box, I turned to say goodbye. "I know you're angry with me for some reason," I said quietly. "I wish I knew what I'd done wrong." Victoria's expression didn't soften. "You didn't do anything wrong, Margaret. You just exist, in my space, in my life, in my way. Nathan felt sorry for you, but I don't." I got in my car. "Will there be a reading of Nathan's will?" "Why would he leave you anything?" Victoria looked genuinely puzzled. "You never contributed financially to our household." The irony made me smile. The $50,000 I'd given them said otherwise. "Of course, silly of me." I drove to the Hampton Inn on Aurora Avenue, the closest hotel I could afford. In my rearview mirror, Victoria stood watching until I disappeared. In the hotel room that smelled of cleaning chemicals and defeat, I stared at my reflection. Widow, childless, homeless, worthless in Victoria's eyes. But as I sat on the polyester bedspread, something unexpected stirred. Not despair, but anticipation. Victoria thought she'd won. She didn't know Nathan had been a better son than she realized. 2 weeks into my hotel stay, as savings dwindled, my phone rang. "Mrs. Chen, this is James Morrison from Morrison & Associates. I handled Nathan's legal affairs." "Yes, I remember the house closing. The probate is complete. Will reading next Tuesday 2 p.m. at my office. Your presence is required." "Required?" "I think there's confusion." Victoria said, "Mrs. Chen, Nathan's will specifically names you as a beneficiary. Tuesday at 2 p.m. After he hung up, I stared at my phone. Nathan left me something after all. Probably a keepsake, his father's watch, childhood photos. Victoria wouldn't be happy, but she'd have to accept it. I spent the weekend searching for apartments online, calculating how far my Social Security and teaching pension would stretch. Tuesday, 1:45 p.m. I sat in Morrison & Associates' parking lot, watching Victoria emerge from a silver BMW in an expensive black dress. A man in a designer suit followed, her brother Marcus already taking notes. Inside, Victoria's face darkened. "What is she doing here?" "Mrs. Chen is here for the will reading," the receptionist replied professionally. "Which Mrs. Chen?" Victoria's voice rose. "Both of you, apparently." Mr. Morrison was a silver-haired man in his 60s with kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. "Ladies, gentlemen, I know this is difficult, but Nathan was very specific about his wishes." Victoria sat forward eagerly. Marcus prepared to take notes. I simply waited. The first part was expected. Victoria inherited the house, cars, retirement accounts, and life insurance. She nodded approvingly at each item, glancing at me with satisfaction. Then Morrison's voice changed. However, there's one final provision Nathan added 3 months ago. The room shifted. Victoria stopped nodding, leaning forward sharply. Marcus put down his pen. Morrison cleared his throat. To my mother, Margaret Chen, who provided the down payment for our home and never asked for repayment, I leave the contents of Safety Deposit Box 3537 at First National Bank, along with all associated documentation. What safety deposit box? Victoria's voice was sharp. Nathan never mentioned it. Apparently, he maintained it privately. He was quite specific the contents go to his mother. I was surprised too. Nathan never mentioned this to me. What's in it? Marcus asked. I have no idea. Nathan simply provided bank information and instructions for Mrs. Chen's full access upon his death. Victoria's face flushed red. This is ridiculous. If there's anything valuable, it should be part of the estate. We'll contest this. You're free to try, Morrison said mildly. But the provision is very clear. Nathan was completely competent when he added it. When exactly? I asked quietly. Morrison consulted notes. February 15th. He came specifically to add this. February 15th, the day after Valentine's Day. Nathan had been unusually quiet at dinner, while Victoria complained about the neighbors. This is a waste of time. Victoria stood abruptly. Marcus, we're filing a challenge tomorrow. Actually, Morrison pulled out another document. Nathan left specific instructions for his mother regarding the box. Mrs. Chen, he wanted you to access it within days. He handed me a sealed envelope. Bank documents and his personal key. They'll need the death certificate. Usually takes 3 business days. Victoria's eyes fixed on the envelope like a predator. I'm coming with you to the bank. That's not possible, Morrison said. Access is restricted to Mrs. Margaret Chen only. Bank policy. This is insane, Victoria sputtered. How do we know there's anything valuable? It could be empty or just sentimental junk. I stood, clutching the envelope. I suppose we'll find out next week. 3 business days later, I stood before Safety Deposit Box 3537 at First National Bank. The manager, Mrs. Peterson, had been briefed about the situation. Box 3537 is one of our larger units, she explained as we walked through security. Your son rented it about 5 years ago and visited quite regularly. 5 years? Nathan had been planning this for 5 years. Mrs. Peterson used her master key while I inserted Nathan's key. The box slid out, large as a briefcase and surprisingly heavy. Take all the time you need, she said, showing me to a private room. I'll be at my desk. Alone in the windowless room, I lifted the lid. The first thing I saw was a letter in Nathan's handwriting. Mom, if you're reading this, I'm gone, and Victoria has probably shown you exactly who she really is. I'm sorry, but I'm not surprised. I've known for years what kind of person I married, and I've been preparing for this. My hands trembled as I continued reading. You gave us $50,000 for our house. I know you thought of it as a loan, even though you never asked for repayment. I've been investing that money for 5 years, adding to it whenever possible. The money in these accounts isn't just repayment. It's what careful investing has grown into. I set the letter down and looked at the documents underneath. Bank statements, investment portfolios, account numbers. My eyes scanned the balance sheets. $210,000 in various investment accounts, all in my name. I picked up Nathan's letter again, hardly believing it. I also discovered Victoria has been telling people you contribute nothing. What she doesn't mention is our mortgage has been automatically paid from my salary the entire time you lived with us. Any money you gave us went straight into investments for your future. The letter continued. I've been documenting everything, Mom. Every email, every text, every cruel comment she made about you. It's all in the folder labeled documentation. I thought you should know what kind of person has been living in our house. I reached for the folder. Inside were printed emails, text screenshots, credit card statements, years of manipulation and deceit. The final paragraph blurred my vision with tears. You deserve better than how she's treated you. Take this money and build a life where no one can make you feel unwanted again. And Mom, don't tell Victoria about any of this until you're safely away from her. Trust me on this. All my love, Nathan. I sat in that bank room for an hour, reading everything Nathan left. By the time I emerged, I had a clear picture of Victoria's years of manipulation. Mrs. Peterson helped me transfer documents to a large envelope and explained how to access the investment accounts. As I walked to my car, my phone rang. Margaret, Victoria's voice was falsely sweet. I was wondering if you'd like to come for lunch today. We could discuss what you found in the safety deposit box. I smiled at my reflection in the car window. That's very generous, Victoria. I'll be there at noon. It was time for Victoria to learn that sometimes the people you underestimate surprise you most. I arrived at exactly noon, carrying a small gift bag. Victoria answered in a flowing white dress that probably cost more than my monthly hotel bill. Margaret, I'm so glad you came. I've made chicken salad. The dining room was set with wedding china and fresh flowers. Stephanie had clearly put effort into this performance. She poured iced tea and chattered about weather while I sat quietly, watching her work up to what she really wanted. So, she finally said, I've been thinking about the safety deposit box. I know we've had our differences, but David would want us to support each other. Families should stick together. I couldn't agree more, I said evenly. Victoria's eyes lit up. I'm so relieved. I was worried you might be angry about finding your own place so quickly, but you understand I needed space to grieve. Of course. So about what Nathan left you, I was thinking we could pool our resources, combine whatever was in that box with his life insurance, maybe invest it together. I have wonderful financial advisors. I bet she did. That's very thoughtful. But what makes you think there was anything valuable in the box? She paused. Well, Nathan was always private about finances. He must have had a reason. Private? Interesting choice of words. You know what I mean. She waved dismissively. Men and their financial planning. They never tell us wives everything. I set down my fork. Actually, Victoria, I think Nathan told you exactly as much as he thought you needed to know. Something flickered in her eyes. Uncertainty. Maybe fear. What did you find in the box, Margaret? I reached for the gift bag. I brought you something. A thank you gift. I pulled out a framed photo of Nathan from his college graduation. Her face softened slightly. Oh, Margaret, this is lovely. I thought you should have it. After all, you were such a devoted wife. The emphasis wasn't lost on her. She looked up sharply. What's that supposed to mean? Nothing at all. I'm just appreciating how well you took care of my son. Victoria set the photo down. Margaret, you're being cryptic. Just tell me what was in the box. I smiled. Documents mostly. Very interesting reading material. What kind of documents? Financial records, investment statements, some correspondence. I paused meaningfully. Quite a few printed emails and text messages. The color drained from Victoria's face. Text messages? Nathan was quite thorough in his record-keeping, especially toward the end. I pulled out my phone, showing a screenshot. This is from 6 months ago. You texting your sister, God, I can't wait until that old bat finally moves out. Then we can turn her room into the home gym I've been wanting. Victoria lunged for my phone, but I pulled back. There are dozens more. This next one is you texting Marcus about how you convinced Nathan that I should contribute to household expenses when the mortgage was already budgeted from his salary. Stop, Victoria whispered. And the email where you're laughing with your sister about how gullible I am. How easy it was to make me feel like a burden when you'd already planned to kick me out after Nathan's death. I set the phone down. That was forward thinking of you, planning my eviction while Nathan was still alive. Victoria's composure cracked. He had no right to save private messages. Actually, he had every right. You were discussing his mother. I leaned back. The question is, what are we going to do about this? What do you want? The mask was completely off. Want? I don't want anything from you, Victoria. I never did. Then why humiliate me? You threw me out the day after my son's funeral. You told me I was worthless, that Nathan felt sorry for me. But Nathan saw everything, every cruel comment, every manipulation, every lie. He documented it all to protect me. You can't prove this would hold up in court. I laughed. Court? I'm not taking you to court. Why would I? You've already given me everything I need. Victoria stared, confused. What are you talking about? I pulled out Nathan's folder. Bank statements showing house payments automatically deducted from Nathan's salary. Emails between you and Marcus discussing the Eleanor situation. Credit card statements showing luxury purchases while you told Nathan we couldn't afford groceries. David saved all of that? Nathan documented everything, I said, including this email thread where you and Marcus discuss having me declared incompetent so you could access my pension and Social Security. Victoria's eyes widened. We never actually... No, you didn't, because Nathan figured out your plan and took steps to protect me. What steps? Her voice trembled. That's interesting, because according to these investment statements, I apparently have quite a bit worth protecting. Money Nathan had been carefully growing for 5 years. That's impossible. You're living in a hotel. I'm living in a hotel because I choose to, not because I can't afford better. Silence stretched as Victoria processed this. How much? Excuse me? How much money did Nathan leave you? I closed the folder. That's none of your business. I'm his wife. I have a right to know. You had a right to know what your husband left you, which was quite generous. The house, cars, life insurance, retirement accounts. Victoria shot to her feet. You manipulative witch! You're trying to steal what's mine. Steal. Everything I have was given to me by my son, who had every legal right to dispose of his assets as he saw fit. I want to see those bank statements. I'm sure you do. I'm warning you. Warning me? I laughed. Victoria, you threw me out of your house. You humiliated me at my son's funeral. What exactly can you threaten me with now? Victoria recalibrated, switching tactics. Margaret, please, let's be reasonable. I know I've been difficult. I was grieving, not thinking clearly. But we're family. We should work together. Family, I repeated, right after you told me Nathan felt sorry for me and I'd never contributed anything. I didn't mean that. I was upset. Oh, but you did mean it. Nathan saved you saying the same things multiple times over years. Her mask slipped again. What do you want from me? An apology? Fine, I'm sorry. Now can we discuss this money? There's nothing to discuss. If Nathan left you significant money, we need to manage it responsibly. You mean you need to spend it responsibly? I picked up my purse. Let me be clear. The money Nathan left isn't an inheritance that fell into my lap. It's the return on the $50,000 I gave you for your down payment, plus 5 years of investment. Victoria's mouth fell open. $50,000? You thought that was a loan? Nathan never forgot it was. How much is it worth now? I pulled out my phone, showing the banking app. $210,000. Victoria grabbed the table to steady herself. That's almost as much as the life insurance. Yes, it is. That money should be split between us. Based on what? The fact that you're his wife and I'm just his mother? Just his mother, I repeated quietly. The woman who gave birth to him, raised him, supported him through college, and lent him the down payment for the house where you threw me out like garbage. I stood and slung my purse over my shoulder. And apparently that was enough for Nathan to make sure I'd never have to depend on anyone's charity again. Wait! Victoria called as I headed for the door. Margaret, please, we can work this out. I paused in the doorway. What exactly do you think we need to work out? The money, our relationship, everything. Panic made her voice tight. Look, I made mistakes. I was stressed about David's death, worried about finances. I took it out on you, but we can fix this." "I'm sure you were worried about finances," I said quietly. "But not for the reasons you're claiming." I pulled out one more document, one I'd been saving for last. "Nathan also documented your spending habits, Victoria, including the $18,000 you charged to credit cards in the month before he died." Her face went ashen. "Spa treatments, designer clothes, a weekend trip to Vancouver with your sister, all while telling Nathan you were worried about money for groceries. I wasn't planning to live off his life insurance while throwing out the inconvenient mother-in-law who might interfere with your lifestyle." Victoria collapsed back into her chair, the fight draining out of her. "You don't understand the pressure I was under." "What pressure? Everyone expected me to be perfect, the perfect wife, the perfect hostess. Do you have any idea how exhausting it is?" I looked at her in her designer dress, in her beautiful house, surrounded by luxury. "No, Victoria, I don't, because I was too busy actually taking care of your husband. I loved Nathan." "You loved what Nathan could provide for you. There's a difference." She was crying now, ugly tears smearing her makeup. "I can't lose everything. I can't go back to being nobody." "You're not nobody, Victoria. You're Nathan's widow. You inherited a $500,000 house, a $200,000 life insurance policy, and his retirement accounts. You're financially set for life if you manage it properly. But it's not enough for the life I planned." "Then maybe you planned the wrong life." I walked to the door and paused one last time. "You know what's funny, Victoria? You could have had everything you wanted. If you'd just been kind to me, if you'd treated me like family, I would have helped you. I would have shared everything. But you chose cruelty instead. Margaret, goodbye, Victoria. Enjoy the house. Enjoy the money Nathan left you. But understand this, you'll never get a penny from me. Not because I'm cruel, but because Nathan knew exactly what kind of person you are. And he made sure his mother would never need anything from you again." I walked out into the sunshine, leaving Victoria alone in her expensive prison. 6 months later, I'm living in a beautiful apartment overlooking Elliott Bay. I volunteer at the Seattle Public Library twice a week, teaching financial literacy to seniors. I've reconnected with old friends and made new ones. Victoria? I heard she had to sell the house, couldn't afford the maintenance on her spending habits. She's living in a condo now, working part-time. The life insurance money is nearly gone. Sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's justice, served exactly when it's needed most. Nathan took care of me, just like he always promised. Even from beyond the grave, my son kept his word. And that, more than any amount of money, was the greatest gift he could have given me. The end.